everyone. In this episode of Greater China Leadership Series, we're very honored to have with us Rob Head from Thomson Reuters, an experienced leader and a passionate advocate for diversity and inclusion. Hi Rob, how are you?
Hey Karen, I'm good, thanks. Nice to see you again.
We've been knowing each other for 10 years now.
Yeah, long time.
Right, yeah. There are a lot of companies using top-down approach to drive ED&I and LGBT, right? So I do know that you are very different. You know, you actually start from nothing and then now being a leader to drive LGBT and ED&I at Thomson Reuters. Can you share with us your experience?
Sure. So obviously at Thomson Reuters, as a global organization, we're pretty well known for our diversity and inclusion and the employee culture that we have, whether that's through our efforts around gender equality, well-being and mental health, diversity and inclusion in LGBTI space, and in a number of other areas around race, religion, etc. And in some of the Asian markets, actually, Aboriginal culture. What I found coming into Hong Kong, though, is that some of those that may be pretty strongly represented in some of the Western economies are not as well represented in markets in Asia, LGBT plus inclusion being a prime example of that. So when I came here and I saw that other organizations that were in our customer base, law firms, financial institutions, for example, were much more advanced in this region, I felt that it was important that Thomson Reuters stepped up. And so I took it upon myself to act, to lead in initiatives for Thomson Reuters that would help increase our brand presence. The first thing I thought to do to help us with that was to create an event where we brought in leaders from both those two customer groups, the financial services institutions, as well as the legal market, and brought in some experience through Stonewall and also through the Equal Opportunities Commission, and had a dialogue and a forum where we had about 75 customers in the room. Through doing that, actually, that was a really good way of engaging our own teams, because then they could see the benefit to them. They see the importance of this topic to their customers. But actually what it did for me was highlighted how much the organization locally believed in a lot of this as well.
So how do you manage to transform from an advocate to a true leader to lead all these activities and initiatives within Thomson Reuters?
Good question. I think it takes a bit of a self-start approach, right? You have to have the passion to begin with to kickstart that journey. But what I found is, as I've progressed in my career from kind of managerial up through to a more senior leader position, that I'm able to also progress within the BRG, the Business Resource Group at Thomson Reuters, to be not the chair and the doer, if you will, of some of these activities, but more the strategy side and being the executive sponsor. So the person who starts to advocate for the dollars on behalf of the Business Resource Group, the person who can speak to the senior leaders and say, this is why we should be doing something. So I've found that as my role has grown, so has my ability to kind of influence this topic.
Well, I believe, you know, like for any initiatives you want to drive for your companies, and when we reach out to like budget thing, you know, everyone is like very conscious and things like that. And, you know, I do think that's actually not just one of the challenges, right? What other challenges you actually faced?
Yeah, I think one of the real challenges is how you get the organization moving with you when you have that passion. What I have found is that through engaging with a senior leader advocate, and back in the day, it must have been about 2016, I went and spoke with Kimberly Cole, a former colleague of mine, who was very strong on gender equality and also was a very strong advocate for the LGBT space as well. So I got her to engage her sales team and bring those into the event. And as a result of including them at that first event, as we started to do more, there was a bit of a snowball effect. And so we found that you have a virtuous circle. You do one thing, people engage, they see the customer engagement, they see the benefit, and then that you get a cycle of improvement going forward.
I actually have noticed you guys actually working with community business. And can you share a little bit more on your relationship with them, and how did, you know, like actually that kind of collaborations drive you guys towards the same directions?
Community Business are a great local NGO who works to drive diversity and inclusion and employee well-being and general mental health and well-being in the region. We've been working with them for a number of years. My area of focus with them has been around LGBT inclusion. We've worked with them on a number of areas in that, but the main area is the LGBT Inclusion Index. And that's an index where you can put in a submission and get scored on about 9 different categories, from strategy and leadership accountability, benefits, training, policy and procedure, all the way through to how you present yourself in the market. And I found that incredibly valuable in helping us to define as an organization what our strategy will be to improve our LGBT inclusivity. So we created, off the back of our first results, a Road to Gold strategy, which set out where our priorities would be for improvement. And as a result, we moved from 23rd in the ranking up to 5th 2 years later. And we were able to take that Road to Gold the next step further as a result of those results, and ended up in the last index ranked number 1 in Hong Kong for LGBT inclusion.
Congratulations, yeah. That's a great achievement.
Thank you.
There's a lot of people have their own beliefs, and also, they're also individuals to drive D&I initiatives. So do you have any advice to them?
Yeah, I think firstly, don't feel like you have to carry the load by yourself. If you have the passion, that's fantastic. But as I described earlier, find those advocates in the organization who can empower you. Find those colleagues who share that passion, because trust me, it's not just you each time. There are many more people out there who are willing to engage on the topic. And then as you go down that journey, build your own virtuous circle, build that snowball effect. And in so doing, your organization can see a number of different benefits. I found that when I interview people, for example, as a recruiter yourselves, the recruitment process and the talent acquisition and retention process is one of the key beneficiaries of having an inclusive culture. So when I speak to people in the recruitment process, they're always telling me about the things that they've seen Thomson Reuters do on diversity and inclusion, and in particular some of the LGBT inclusion pieces as well. But that also helps to improve the employee retention, because they feel that the culture is positive, it is inclusive, it's somewhere they want to be and with people that they want to work with. So,
and I think that's very important, right? So everyone knows employer branding is so important. I think it's not just like from the marketing perspective to talk about it, it's more about how you perceive the value and purpose of the company as well.
No, absolutely. It's ultimately something that if you can demonstrate that value, people will stick around. And there are stats out there that tell you that organizations that have inclusive cultures perform at a higher level. For talent, it's really, really key that inclusive culture is pervasive in your organization.
Thank you for your time today. I'm really impressed with your passion in driving ED&I in the community. So we look forward to seeing more positive changes you're going to bring into the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.